You catch them in a lie, not a small one, a big one. The kind where they looked you in the eyes and said something they knew was false, and then did it again, and maybe again after that. Your first instinct, depending on who you are, might be to confront them, or ghost them, or warn everyone you know. But none of those feelings came from nowhere. They are ancient. They are wired in. And for most of human history, catching someone in a persistent lie was not a social inconvenience. It was a survival crisis. Here is what your ancestors actually did about it. For roughly 300,000 years, your species lived in small bands, not cities, not towns, not neighborhoods, bands. Rarely more than 30 to 50 people, sharing fire, food, and everything in between. Every person in that group was known to you, their habits, their moods, their track record. There was no anonymity. There was no option to just move somewhere else and start over. The group you were born into was, with very few exceptions, the group you lived and died in. In that world, a chronic liar was not just annoying, they were a threat to the entire group's survival. Think about what a lie actually does in a small band. Imagine your group is deciding whether to cross a river to follow game. One person says the crossing is shallow and safe. They know it is not. People wade in, someone drowns, or gets swept downstream. Or the group exhausts itself and fails to make the hunt. One false piece of information, deliberately given, could kill. Now imagine that person does this repeatedly. Now imagine there is nowhere to go. This is the environment your brain evolved in. And it left marks. Christopher Boehm, an anthropologist at the University of Southern California, spent decades studying the behavior of forager societies around the world. His 2012 book, Hierarchy in the Forest, drew on data from hundreds of hunter-gatherer groups and identified a near-universal pattern. Small band societies are intensely egalitarian, and they enforce that egalitarianism through a specific and very intentional set of social tools. One of the most important of those tools is what Boehm calls reverse dominance hierarchy, a system where individuals who try to cheat, dominate, or deceive the group get pushed back down collectively by everyone else. In plain terms, the group gangs up on the cheater, not violently at first, not immediately. There is a process, a graduated response, and it is remarkably consistent across cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. Step 1 is gossip. This probably sounds trivial. It is not. Gossip in forager societies is not idle chatter. It is a distributed early warning system. It is how information about someone's behavior spreads through a group before anyone has to take direct action. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, who proposed the famous Dunbar's number, the idea that the human brain can maintain stable social relationships with roughly 150 people, also argued that language itself may have evolved primarily for social monitoring, not for naming plants or planning hunts, for talking about people. And the specific thing people talk about most, across every culture studied, is reputation. Who can be trusted? Who has been seen doing something questionable? Who told someone one thing and then did another? When a member of your ancestral band started lying regularly, the gossip network activated. Others began comparing notes, quietly, carefully. And once a reputation for dishonesty began to, it spread fast because in a group of 30 to 50 people with no outside distractions, social information was the most valuable currency in circulation. Step 2 is what researchers call public criticism or social sanctioning. This is where the community stops being subtle. In a 1993 study, anthropologist Polly Wiessner analyzed the fireside conversations of the Jew/Hoansi San people of the Kalahari, one of the most studied hunter-gatherer groups on Earth. She found that roughly 34% of evening conversation around the campfire was devoted to stories and discussions with a clear moral dimension, accounts of who had done right, who had done wrong, and what it meant. These weren't abstract moral debates. They were pointed, specific. Everyone in the circle knew exactly who was being discussed. This is public criticism operating as group pressure. You are not being attacked. You are being talked about loudly enough that you can hear it. The message is, we see you. We are keeping track. This is your chance to correct course. For many, This was enough, because the alternative, full social exclusion, was, in that environment, effectively a death sentence. Step 3 is ostracism. Not cancellation in the modern social media sense, not a blocked account or a public pile-on, physical exclusion from the fire, from the food sharing, from the mutual protection of the group. In a world without grocery stores, hospitals, or law enforcement, being excluded from your band meant you faced the cold, the hunger, and the predators alone. Boehm documented this across dozens of forager societies. When gossip failed and public criticism failed, groups would refuse to share food with a known liar or cheat. They would stop including the person in decisions. They would, in some cases, physically relocate camp without telling the excluded individual where they were going. The message was not subtle. You have broken the contract that holds this group together. We will not starve. To protect you, let's reconstruct a scene. Put yourself inside it. You are sitting at the edge of a fire. It is around 15,000 years ago, somewhere in what is now southern France. Perhaps not far from the decorated caves at Lascaux, which were already ancient even then. Your band is 38 people. You have lived with every one of them your entire life. One of the men in your group, call him the storyteller, because in every band there is one, has been claiming repeatedly that he saw a large herd of reindeer at the northern ridge. Others have gone to look. Twice. There is nothing there. The third time, someone who went with him says quietly, around this same fire, that the man was not at the ridge at all. He was sleeping in a hollow. The lie cost the group 2 days of travel and a failed hunt during a stretch of particularly lean, cold. No one yells, no one throws anything, but the fire that night feels different. Eyes move. The storyteller speaks, and people do not respond the way they used to. When the food is passed, he gets a smaller share. Not nothing, but smaller. And the next morning, when the group decides to head southwest to scout a river valley, 3 people tell him, without cruelty, but without warmth, that he should stay behind and tend the camp. He stays. He understands. This is the system your ancestors built. Not laws, not courts, not written contracts. A tightly woven web of observation, reputation, and calibrated social consequence. Here is the counterintuitive twist. This system required the liar to be manageable. It was not designed to destroy them. It was designed to correct them. Because in a band of 38 people, you could not afford to simply discard a person. Every adult was labor. Every adult was knowledge. Every adult was a set of hands during a hunt, or a difficult childbirth, or an illness. The goal of the graduated response, gossip, then criticism, then ostracism, was not permanent exile. It was behavioral correction. Come back to the group's norms. And the group would come back to you. Anthropologists who have studied contact-era forager societies, including James Suzman, who spent years with the hoansi San in Namibia and Botswana and described their social dynamics in his 2017 book, Affluence Without Abundance, noted that even after significant social sanctions, individuals who genuinely corrected their behavior were reintegrated. The community had long memories, but it also had the pragmatic flexibility to forgive, not out of sentimentality, but because the survival math demanded it. There was, however, a threshold, a line beyond which correction was considered impossible, and the calculus changed. In extreme cases, habitual dangerous or violent deceit that continued, despite every warning. Forager societies sometimes resorted to what anthropologists euphemistically call capital punishment, the execution of a community member by group consensus. Boehm documented this too. It was rare, it was always collective, never carried out by one person acting alone, because that would itself be a violation of egalitarian norms. And it was treated, by the groups who carried it, as a deeply reluctant last resort. Not justice in the triumphant sense, more like amputation. The removal of something that left in place would kill the body. What does any of this have to do with you? Consider what happens in your body when you catch someone in a lie. The spike of cortisol, the stress hormone, the narrowed attention, the sudden re-examination of every previous interaction with that person, the urge to tell someone, the impulse to warn others, the anger, yes, but underneath the anger, something that feels more like grief, like a contract has been broken that you did not even know you were operating under. That response is not a character flaw. It is an inherited survival mechanism, precision calibrated over hundreds of thousands of years in small groups, where a chronic liar genuinely threatened every person around them. Your brain did not evolve in a world of anonymous strangers and digital reputations. It evolved in a band of 38 people around a fire, and when someone lies to you, repeatedly, deliberately, without remorse, the part of your brain doing the reacting is not your modern prefrontal cortex. It is something much older, something that has already calculated without your conscious awareness exactly what this means for a group of 38 people in the cold. You catch them in a lie. Your ancestors built an entire social system to handle that moment, a system so effective that traces of it survive in every human culture on Earth. In the way gossip spreads before confrontation, in the way communities quietly close ranks around a known cheat, in the way even the most permissive societies eventually say, enough, you were not overreacting, you were remembering.